He barked at her to pump his gas like she was beneath him, loud enough for his laughing friends to hear, bold enough to feel untouchable. What he didn't know was that the woman he just humiliated wasn't a worker at the station. She was the chief of police, and she never forgot a face. It was a warm Friday evening in the small southern town of Meadowbrook. The sun had just begun to dip below the horizon, spreading an orange glow across the sky. Birds were flying home, and the streets buzzed with life as people got ready for the weekend. Chief Angela Morgan, the town's police chief, had just finished a long and tiring community meeting at the local church. She had been speaking to local residents about youth programs, safety concerns, and trust building between police and the community. It had gone well, but she was exhausted. Angela wasn't in her uniform that day. She had come straight from home. In a pair of jeans and a plain t-shirt, her hair tied back in a simple bun, her badge and gun were locked safely in her car. She had chosen to dress casually to be more approachable to the community, and it worked. Two people, smiling, answering questions, and shaking hands. But now her stomach was rumbling, and her gas tank was low. She needed to stop at the nearby gas station before heading home. She pulled into the station, got out of her car, and swiped her card at the pump. She began fueling her car. She looked around. It was the usual mix of people, some folks in work uniforms, a couple of teenagers, a mother with a toddler. She nodded politely at a woman walking by. Everything felt calm. Then came the loud engine. A shiny red sports car came screeching into the station, music blaring from the speakers. The car was too flashy for a small town like Meadowbrook, clearly bought to impress. Inside were 4 high school boys, loud and laughing, acting like they owned the world. The driver parked at the pump next to Angela's car and stepped out. Slamming the door, he was tall, blonde, and wore expensive clothes. His name was Trent. He was the son of Karen Holbrook, a well-known woman in town who was infamous for her entitled behavior and loud complaints. Trent looked at Angela for a second, then smirked. "Hey!" he shouted, walking over. "Fill it up, premium, and make it fast, lady." Angela turned slowly, unsure if she heard correctly. She blinked at him. "Excuse me?" Trent waved his hand dismissively. "Come on, we're late for a party. Don't just stand there." His friends laughed from inside the car, slapping the dashboard and pointing at Angela. "What's the matter? Don't speak English?" Angela narrowed her eyes. Her instincts told her this kid didn't just make a mistake. He had taken one look at her dark skin, her simple clothes, and assumed she worked at the gas station. Worse, he didn't think twice about speaking to her like she was beneath him. She didn't say anything at first. She just looked at him. Measuring him, Trent stepped closer. "Look, it's not that hard. You put the thing in the tank, pull the handle, and gas comes out. You've done this 1,000 times, right?" One of the boys inside the car imitated Angela's posture, slouching with his hands in his pockets, pretending to be lazy. They all laughed again. Angela didn't move. She wasn't angry, at least not on the outside. Years of police training had taught her how to stay calm under pressure. She simply asked, "Are you always this rude to strangers, or is today special?" Trent rolled his eyes. "Lady, just do your job, all right? My mom says people like you should be happy to have work." That made Angela blink. She had heard a lot in her life, but the way he said people like you made it clear what he meant. Her fingers tightened slightly on the fuel pump. The other customers nearby had begun to notice. A man from the store window looked outside, shaking his head, but nobody said anything yet. It was the kind of moment where everyone holds their breath to see what will happen next. Angela smiled calmly, even kindly. "All right," she said, her voice soft. "I'll help you." Trent looked pleased. Finally, it took you long enough. He leaned back against his car, pulling out his phone to scroll through messages. Angela walked over to his car and picked up the nozzle. She inserted it into his tank and started the pump. As the gas flowed, Trent kept talking to his friends. "Look at her, brew. Can't believe she was going to talk back like that. Mom says this town's getting way too soft." Angela quietly finished pumping. When the tank was full, she placed the nozzle back and wiped her hands. She turned to Trent and said, "Your tank's full. That'll be $76. Trent laughed and reached into his wallet. Instead of handing her cash or a card, he pulled out a crumpled dollar bill and tossed it toward her feet. There. Don't spend it all in one place. Angela looked at the dollar, then slowly bent down to pick it up. She folded it neatly and put it in her pocket. Her eyes met Trent's. You know, she said softly, I think I'll keep this. A memory of our little chat. Trent squinted. Whatever. Next time. Try to be faster. One of his friends muttered, Dude, let's go. But Trent wasn't done yet. He pulled a small bottle of water from his car and threw it at her feet. You can wash the windshield too. That thing's covered in bugs. Angela stared at him, unblinking. That's when someone nearby pulled out a phone and started recording. Angela didn't flinch. She didn't yell. She didn't argue. She simply took a deep breath and looked at Trent carefully. Then, in a calm and measured voice, she said, See you around, Trent. Trent froze. Wait, how do you know my name? Angela gave a small smile. Oh, I know a lot of things. She turned and walked back to her car. Trent stood there, suddenly unsure of himself. His friends had stopped laughing. The man inside the gas station was still watching. One of the boys in the back seat whispered, Dude, maybe she knows your mom or something. Trent shrugged it off. Nah, she's just some weirdo. Let's go. But he didn't sound as confident anymore. Angela got into her car and started the engine. She didn't drive away immediately. She sat there for a moment, thinking. She had seen people like Trent before, entitled, spoiled, and taught to believe they were better than others because of money, skin color, or last name. She had also seen what happened when those people got older and never learned respect. Ended up behind bars. Others caused harm they never had to face. But sometimes, just sometimes, a moment like this could change something, if not in the boy himself, then in someone watching. She looked in her rearview mirror. The phone recording had stopped. The crowd had thinned. Trent's car had pulled, away in a rush of engine noise and fading music. But the air had changed. Angela tapped the folded dollar in her pocket and shook her head with a smile. Some lessons were better served cold, and some were better left to unfold naturally. She drove, off into the evening, her car rolling down the quiet road toward home. The orange sky had deepened to a dusky purple. Streetlights flickered on one by one. The town she had sworn to protect and guide was still out. They're still learning, still growing. And Angela Morgan, the woman who had been mistaken for a gas station attendant, remained calm and steady because she knew who she was. What Trent didn't know, and what he would soon find out, was that she wasn't just another woman at a gas station. She was the chief of police, and she never forgot. Face. The next morning began with golden sunlight pouring through the windows of the Holbrook house. It was a big 2-story home with fancy furniture, large paintings, and a spotless kitchen that Karen Holbrook barely used. Everything in that house screamed wealth and privilege. Karen sat at the dining table, sipping her morning coffee and scrolling through her phone when she suddenly saw something that made her freeze. It was a video at first. She didn't pay much attention. Then she saw her son Trent standing at a gas station, yelling at a woman, acting rude and arrogant. He was laughing with his friends, throwing something at her feet and making fun of her. Karen's face went pale. The woman in the video never raised her voice. She stayed calm and even smiled. But the video had spread like wildfire. People were commenting, sharing, and criticizing Trent's behavior. Words like racist, entitled brat, and spoiled kid were written again and again. Karen's hands trembled as she watched. Just then, Trent came downstairs, yawning and scratching his head. Morning, he mumbled, heading to the fridge. Karen turned around sharply. What did you do last night? She demanded. Trent looked confused. What? Nothing. Just went to a party. Did you stop at a gas station? He shrugged. Why? She held up her phone and pressed play. The video began again. Trent stared at the screen, his face slowly changing. Oh, whatever that lady was weird. Thought she'd worked there or something. Karen looked like she might explode. Do you realize what this looks like? Do you know who that woman is? She's nobody. It's just some gas station lady. Karen stood up. No, Trent, she's not. That's Angela Morgan. She's the chief of police. Trent blinked. Wait, what? Karen pointed at the screen. You embarrassed yourself. You embarrassed me. You humiliated that woman in public and someone filmed it. Everyone's seen it. Trent sat down slowly, the color draining from his face. She didn't look like a cop. Karen threw her hands up. Oh, because she wasn't in uniform. So now you think you can treat anyone like garbage if they don't wear a badge. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. She had class. You're lucky she didn't arrest you on the spot. Trent tried to defend himself, but the words felt empty. I didn't know. Karen paced the floor, muttering to herself. You used my name last night. Told some officer you were Karen Holbrook's son when you were pulled over for speeding. What were you thinking? I thought it would help, Trent said quietly. Karen's phone buzzed again. It was a message from the mayor's assistant. They wanted to talk. Her stomach twisted. Get dressed, she snapped. We're going to the police station. Trent stood frozen. Why? Because we're going to fix this before it gets worse. Got that video gets on the news? You can kiss college goodbye. About 30 minutes later, they pulled into the parking lot of the Meadowbrook Police Department. Karen wore a sharp gray dress and sunglasses. Trent followed behind her in silence, his head down, his mind racing. He felt like everyone was watching him. The officers inside greeted Karen politely, but without warmth. They had seen the video, too. A young officer led them into a waiting room. Karen sat straight-backed in her chair, lips pressed tightly together. Trent sat next to her, fidgeting with his hands. The door opened, and a woman walked in. It was her Angela Morgan. She wore her navy blue police uniform, the badge shining on. Her chest, her hair was neat, and her expression was calm, unreadable. She held a folder in one hand. She looked straight at Karen, then at Trent. Double quotes, Mrs. Holbrook. Trent. Karen stood up immediately. Chief Morgan, thank you for seeing us. On short notice, Angela nodded. Course. Have a seat. Karen sat back down. Angela didn't sit. She remained standing, opening the folder in her hands. She pulled out a printout. It was a screenshot from the video. Trent's face was clearly visible, frozen mid-sentence, sneering. Assume you've seen this? Angela said. Karen nodded quickly. Yes. I'm deeply sorry for my son's behavior. We don't approve of what happened. It was unacceptable. Angela glanced at Trent. And what about you, Trent? Anything to say? Trent swallowed hard. His throat was dry. I didn't know who you were, he said. Angela raised an eyebrow. Does that change how you treat people? Trent opened his mouth, then closed it again. Angela set the photo on the table. Let me tell you what I saw. I saw a young man who believes he's better than others. I saw a group of boys laughing at a woman who hadn't done a single thing to deserve it. I saw someone who was so used to getting what he wanted he forgot to be human. Trent looked down. Angela turned to Karen. He threw $1 at me. Told me to wash his windows. Mocked my skin color. Karen's face turned red. I didn't raise him like that. Angela didn't argue. I believe people show who they are when they think no one's watching. Karen shifted uncomfortably. Angela continued. Trent also used your name last night during a traffic stop. He told my officer that you run this town and he didn't have to follow the rules. Karen closed her eyes. He did? Nodded. He did. That officer let him go without a ticket, but not anymore. She pulled out a form and handed it over. Public harassment. Community service. And a formal apology letter written by hand. Trent's head snapped up. Community service? Angela looked directly at him. Yes, you'll be spending your Saturdays at the same gas station where you humiliated me. You'll pump gas, clean trash, and learn what it's like to be spoken to like you don't matter. Maybe then you'll understand. Karen opened her mouth, but Angela cut her off. This is not open for negotiation. Karen sat back in her chair, defeated. Angela softened her voice just a little.
Hey, this isn't about revenge.
It's about teaching him something no school or fancy car can. Respect, decency, and how quickly the world can turn on you when you don't have either. Trent stared at the floor, hands clenched. Angela turned to leave, but paused at the door. "Oh, and one more thing." They looked up. "That dollar you threw at me? I'm keeping it, not because I need it, but because it reminds me why I wear this badge." She walked out, closing the door behind her. The room was silent. Outside, officers went back to their tasks. Phones buzzed. Papers shuffled. The town kept moving. But inside that small room, something had changed. Trent no longer felt powerful. For the first time, he felt truly small. He realized that the woman he had insulted was not just anyone. She was someone who held power without needing to shout. And that power had just spoken. The morning after the police station meeting, Trent Holbrook woke up feeling uneasy. His usual confidence had been shaken, and for the first time in a long while, he felt the weight of his actions. He looked at himself in the mirror, noting the tiredness under his eyes and the worried crease on his forehead. His mother, Karen, had been firm but worried, and the meeting with Chief Angela Morgan had left him speechless. He could still see the image of Angela standing tall and calm in her uniform, her eyes steady and full of authority. Trent's mind was swirling with many thoughts. He kept replaying the events of the previous night, how he had acted with arrogance. At the gas station, how he had assumed that the woman was just a regular worker because of how she looked. He had thoughtlessly spoken down to her, ignoring basic respect. And then, when he had found out she was the town's chief of police, a sudden fear gripped him. How could he have been so blind? How could he have allowed himself to act that way? Meanwhile, Karen was pacing in the living room, speaking urgently on the phone with the mayor's office and several community leaders. She was trying to manage the growing storm. The video of Trent's rude behavior at the gas station had gone viral on social media, spreading across the town and even reaching nearby cities. Local news outlets were asking for comments, neighbors were talking, and people were forming opinions. Karen realized this was no longer just a family issue, it was now a public matter. Karen's usual confidence was shaken. For years, she had believed that her social status and connections could protect her family from any trouble. But this time was different. The calm strength and professionalism of Chief Morgan had turned the tables. Karen knew that she couldn't just sweep this under the rug or pay someone off. The consequences were real, and the public was watching closely. At school, Trent faced whispers and cold stares. His friends acted differently around him, some avoiding eye contact, others clearly judging. A few who had once laughed with him now shook their heads in disappointment. Trent's reckless driving incident, combined with his public humiliation at the gas station, made him the center of attention for all the wrong reasons. One afternoon, Trent sat alone in the school cafeteria, stirring his food without appetite. His phone buzzed with messages. Most were from people condemning his behavior, but one stood out, a message from Mark, one of the friends who had been with him that night. "Hey man, maybe we should talk. I wasn't okay with what you did." Trent hesitated, then replied, "Yeah, I need to think." That evening, Trent started writing an apology letter to Chief Morgan. It was not easy for him to find the right words. He wanted to sound sincere. But more than that, he wanted to show he had learned something. He wrote about how he had been rude, unfair, and disrespectful. He admitted his ignorance and apologized for hurting her feelings and disrespecting her position. He promised to do his community service seriously and try to change. Meanwhile, Chief Morgan was reviewing the case with her team. She understood that Trent's behavior was not just a personal insult, it reflected deeper issues in the community. Racism, entitlement, and a lack of respect were problems she had been fighting for years. But she also believed in second chances and growth. She made sure Trent's punishment was fair, but also aimed to teach him. The community service at the gas station was designed to give him a glimpse into the lives of everyday people, the ones he had looked down upon. The public apology letter was a way for him to take responsibility in writing. And the traffic citation would remind him that no one was above the law. The news of Trent's punishment spread quickly. Some in the town cheered, proud that justice was being served. Others grumbled, feeling that he was being treated too harshly. But Chief Morgan stood firm. "Respect and responsibility are for everyone," she said in a press conference. "No, one should be above the law, and no one deserves disrespect." We must hold each other accountable. Karen, despite her anger and embarrassment, began to realize that the best way forward was to support her son in learning from his mistakes. She reluctantly agreed to let Trent start his community service. The thought of her son working alongside people he had once insulted was humbling. It was a step towards change for the entire family. As Trent showed up at the gas station on his first day of community service, he felt a knot in his stomach. The same gas station where he had acted so arrogantly was now his place of learning. The owner, a kind, middle-aged man named Joe, greeted him with a simple nod. "You here to work?" Joe asked. Trent nodded, swallowing hard. Joe smiled. "Oh, good. We all start somewhere." During the next few weeks, Trent learned more than he expected. Pumping gas, cleaning up trash, and talking with regular customers gave him a new perspective. He began to understand the hard work and patience required in everyday life. The same people he had mocked turned out to be kind, patient, and worthy of respect. Slowly, the arrogance in Trent's heart started to fade. One day, while working, Trent noticed a young girl watching him from across the street. She was one of the children from the community youth program Chief Morgan had helped start. She smiled shyly and waved. Trent smiled back. It was a small gesture, but felt important. He realized that change wasn't just about punishment, it was about connection. Back at school, Trent's behavior improved. He stopped bragging and started listening. His friends noticed the change. Some joined him in volunteering at community programs. Trent even spoke quietly to younger students about the importance of respect and humility. Meanwhile, Karen began attending community meetings alongside Chief Morgan. She started to understand the challenges faced by many in their town, issues she had never truly faced or acknowledged before. She saw the power of leadership that didn't come from money or status, but from compassion and fairness. Through it all, Chief Morgan remained a steady presence. She never boasted about her role in Trent's punishment. Instead, she focused on healing the community and building bridges. Her calm and firm approach showed that true leadership meant justice balanced with mercy. Months later, Trent wrote another letter, this time to Chief Morgan personally. He thanked her for her patience, for giving him a chance to learn, and for showing him what real strength looked like. He admitted that he had been wrong and hoped to continue growing into a better person. Chief Morgan read the letter with a small, proud smile. It was a reminder of why she did the job, not for power, but for the chance to make a difference. The story of Trent and the chief became more than just a moment in a gas station. It became a lesson for the whole town, a story about respect, growth, and the power of humility. In the end, the boy who had once shouted rude words learned to listen. The woman who had been mistaken for a gas station attendant showed the true meaning of authority. And the town of Meadowbrook moved a little closer to understanding what it really meant to be a community. After weeks of community service, Trent's life was changing in ways he never imagined. At first, every moment at the gas station felt like a punishment. He had gone there expecting boredom and humiliation. Instead, he found something he hadn't. Expect a chance to see the world differently each morning. Trent woke early, putting on his simple uniform and heading to the gas station with a heavy heart. The job was hard work. He pumped gas, wiped down windows, and cleaned the parking lot. His hands, once used only to hold expensive gadgets and car keys, now felt rough and tired from scrubbing floors and handling greasy equipment. At times, his muscles ached, but he reminded himself that this was what he deserved. Slowly, Trent began to notice the people who came to the gas station every day. They were not the kind of people he used to hang out with, rich kids who never worried about money or rules. These were ordinary folks workers, parents and travelers. Some looked tired. Others smiled warmly. Some stopped to chat with Joe, the owner, while others quietly filled their tanks and left. One afternoon, a woman came in to buy coffee. She smiled at Trent kindly and said, "You're doing a good job today." Trent blinked, surprised. She had the same calm kindness that Chief Morgan showed when she had confronted him. The woman's words felt strange but good. like a small light in a dark room. Trent realized that these people didn't judge him for who his family was or the mistakes he had made. They saw him as a person trying to learn. It was a new feeling, one he hadn't known before. Back at home, Karen watched Trent's transformation with mixed feelings. At first, she was frustrated and worried. Her son was changing, and the changes challenged everything she had believed about status and power. But over time, she saw the honesty in Trent's eyes and the effort he was making. One evening, Karen and Trent had a long talk. Trent shared what he had learned: the patience, the respect, and the new understanding of people's struggles. Karen listened quietly, her heart softening. She realized that maybe this experience was good for both of them. It was breaking down walls that had been built by fear and pride. Meanwhile, Chief Morgan kept a watchful eye on Trent's progress. She didn't believe in punishment without growth. She encouraged him to volunteer in other community programs, like helping at the local youth center and participating in neighborhood cleanups. These activities pushed Trent out of his comfort zone even more. At the youth center, Trent met kids who reminded him of his younger self, confused, angry, and looking for direction. For the first time, he spoke openly about his mistakes, and what he had learned. His honesty surprised many, and some of the kids started to trust him. Trent found a new purpose in helping others avoid the mistakes he had made. One day, while helping organize a community event, Trent was asked to speak in front of a crowd. He was nervous, but agreed. When he stepped up to the microphone, he looked out at the faces of neighbors, teachers, and police officers, including Chief Morgan. He spoke about respect, responsibility, and the importance of humility. He shared his story not to seek sympathy, but to encourage others to learn from him. His words were simple but powerful. After the speech, many people came to shake his hand. Some thanked him for his courage. Trent felt something he had never felt before: a real connection to the community. Karen was there too, watching with pride. She saw the boy who had once been reckless and rude grow into a young man willing to change and make a difference. It was a proud and humbling moment. Meanwhile, the town's attitude toward Trent shifted. People began to see him as someone who had earned a second chance. The gossip and judgment slowly faded, replaced by respect and hope, but the journey was not easy. Trent still faced moments of doubt and temptation. Some old friends tried to pull him back into bad habits. Some days he struggled to keep up with the work and the new responsibilities, but the lessons from Chief Morgan and the community service stayed with him. One afternoon, as Trent was leaving the youth center, he saw Chief Morgan waiting outside. She smiled at him warmly. "You've come a long way, Trent," she said. "I'm proud of you." Trent felt a rush of emotion. "Thank you, Chief, for everything." Angela Morgan nodded. "Remember, respect and responsibility are lifelong lessons. Keep learning." From that moment, Trent knew his life had changed forever. He was no longer the boy who thought he was above everyone else. He was someone who understood what it meant to be part of a community, to give, to listen, and to grow. Karen's relationship with Chief Morgan also changed. From rivals to reluctant allies, they found common ground in wanting the best for the town and its people. Karen learned to respect Angela not just as a police chief, but as a leader with heart and courage. The story of Trent, Holbrook, and Chief Angela Morgan became a powerful example for Meadowbrook. It showed that mistakes don't have to define us, and that true strength comes from humility and respect. In the end, Trent's journey was more than punishment or apology. It was about transformation. A boy who once used his privilege to hurt others found a new path, one of understanding, kindness, and real courage. In the town, watching this change unfold, took hope that they too could grow and become better. Time passed, and the changes in Trent Holbrook's life became clearer to everyone around him. What started as a punishment and a lesson had turned into a journey of real growth. The young man who once acted with arrogance and disrespect was slowly becoming a symbol of change, not only for himself, but for the entire town of Meadow. Trent had completed his community service at the gas station and other local places. But more importantly, he had learned lessons that no fine or detention could ever teach. His experiences showed him the meaning of respect, humility, and responsibility. He realized that no matter who you are or where you come from, everyone deserves kindness and dignity. Trent's school life also improved. The whispers and cold looks were replaced by nods of recognition and smiles of encouragement. Teachers noticed his changed attitude. Instead of skipping classes or causing trouble, he started paying attention and working harder. His grades improved, but even more important was his attitude toward others. He had become someone others could look up to. One of the biggest surprises was how Trent began to reach out to those he had once ignored or looked down upon. He joined clubs and volunteered in after-school programs aimed at helping younger students who were struggling. He shared his story openly, not as a way to boast, but to warn others against making the same mistakes at home. Things were different. 2. Karen, his mother, had become more thoughtful and understanding. The experience with Trent and Chief Morgan had humbled her as well. She stopped trying to use her social status to protect her family from consequences. Instead, she supported Trent's efforts to grow and encouraged him to keep working on becoming a better person. One day, Kieran attended a community event alongside Trent and Chief Morgan. The event was a celebration of unity and progress in Meadowbrook. It brought together people from all walks of life: residents, police officers, community leaders, and families. The mood was hopeful and positive, a clear sign that the town was healing from old wounds. During the event, Chief Morgan gave a speech. She talked about justice, fairness, and the importance of giving people second chances. She praised the community for coming together and supporting one another. Then, she turned to Trent and said, "This young man is proof that we can all change. We all have the power to be better." Trent stood tall, feeling proud but humble. He knew he still had much to learn, but this moment showed him how far he had come. Life didn't become perfect overnight. Trent still faced challenges. Sometimes, people judged him harshly because of his past mistakes. Sometimes old habits tried to pull him back, but he had learned to face these moments with strength. In honesty, one of the hardest tests came when Trent's old group of friends tried to invite him back to their reckless ways parties, dangerous driving, and disrespectful behavior. At first, Trent felt the pull. It was familiar and tempting, but he remembered the lessons Chief Morgan had taught him. He thought about the people he had hurt and the trust he had worked to rebuild. With quiet confidence, Trent said no. He chose his new path and stuck with it. Some of his old friends didn't understand and walked away, but others respected his choice. Trent's story began to inspire others in Meadowbrook. Schools invited him to speak about respect, responsibility, and the importance of community. Local youth programs asked him to volunteer and mentor younger kids. His journey became a reminder that change was possible even when things seemed impossible. Chief Morgan continued to support Trent and the community. She worked tirelessly to create programs that promoted understanding and cooperation. She believed that the true power of law enforcement was not just to punish, but to educate and heal. Karen's view of the world also shifted. She became involved in local charity work and community projects. She met people she had never known before and learned about their struggles and dreams. This new awareness changed her deeply. One day, Trent was invited to meet with the mayor and other town leaders. They wanted to thank him for his courage and leadership. They spoke about creating more programs to help youth avoid the mistakes he had made. Trent felt honored, but knew this was not about him alone. It was about the whole town coming together. Looking back, Trent understood that the moment he shouted rude words at the gas station was a turning point, a moment of shame. That led to a path of growth. If Chief Morgan had not stood firm, if Karen had not faced the truth, none of this change would have been possible. He thought about the power of respect, the power it had to change people, relationships, and communities. He realized that respect was not just about rules or authority, it was about seeing others as human beings worthy of dignity. As Trent's story became known beyond Meadowbrook, it reminded people everywhere that mistakes don't have to define a person's life. What matters most is the willingness to learn, change, and make amends. The journey was not easy, but it was real. It was ongoing. In the end, Trent Holbrook's story was about hope. Hope that even when we fall, we can rise again. Hope that respect and kindness can heal wounds. Hope that communities can come together to build a better future. And above all, hope that one person's change can inspire many others.